Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most powerful learning frameworks ever created, and we're showing you exactly how to combine it with artificial intelligence to learn literally anything faster than you ever thought possible. If you're serious about accelerating your growth, whether that's mastering a new skill, crushing that certification, or finally understanding complex topics that have stumped you before, you're in exactly the right place. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now, because we break down game-changing frameworks like this every single week. The Feynman technique is named after Richard Feynman, one of the greatest physicists of the 20th century. What made Feynman different wasn't that he had a bigger brain than everyone else, though he certainly had a brilliant mind. What set him apart was his system for learning. Feynman believed that true understanding could be measured in one simple way. Can you explain it clearly to someone else? If you can't explain it simply, then you don't actually understand it. This principle became the foundation of his technique, and it remains one of the most effective learning frameworks we have today. Here's the beautiful thing about the Feynman technique. It works for everything: mathematics, physics, history, programming, cooking, languages, art, business concepts, you name it. The technique doesn't care what subject you're studying. It works because it targets the core problem with how most people learn. We read, we watch videos, we highlight text, and we feel like we understand. But when we try to explain what we learn to another person, suddenly everything falls apart. We stumble. We use jargon to fill the gaps. We realize there are massive holes in our understanding. The Feynman technique exposes those gaps immediately and forces you to fill them. Now, when you combine the Feynman technique with AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, or specialized learning platforms, something magical happens. You get a tireless tutor available at 3 in the morning. You get instant feedback. You get explanations in multiple formats. You get the ability to test your understanding in real time without judgment or awkwardness. You get the entire learning process accelerated by weeks or even months. Let's break down the Feynman technique into 4 clear steps. Step 1 is choose your concept. You need to pick a single specific topic you want to master. Not something huge and vague like biology, something precise like osmosis or the cell membrane or photosynthesis. The more specific you are, the better this works. Write it down at the top of a blank page or a blank document. This might seem simple, but clarity on what you're learning is crucial. Step 2 is study the material actively. This is where most people go wrong. They watch videos on one monitor while checking their phone on the other. With AI, your approach changes completely. You watch the material, read the resources, watch videos, whatever your primary learning source is, but then immediately you turn to an AI tool and you start asking probing questions. What's the basic mechanism here? What's an analogy for this? What would happen if we changed this variable? This active engagement gets your brain firing on all cylinders instead of just passively receiving information. Step 3 is the heart of the technique. Explain it in simple terms. This is where you pretend you're teaching a 12-year-old. You open a new document, or you sit down and you explain the concept using simple language, no jargon, no hiding behind technical terms. If you're learning about photosynthesis, you don't write plants undergo photosynthesis utilizing chlorophyll to convert light energy into chemical energy. No. You write something like plants are basically tiny solar panels. They grab light from the sun and convert it into food and energy. That's it. That's the explanation. Here's where AI becomes absolutely invaluable. You take your simple explanation and you paste it into an AI tool and you ask it to check your work. Is this accurate? Where am I missing detail? Where am I being imprecise? The AI will tell you exactly where your understanding has gaps. Then you revise, you study those specific gaps. You revise your explanation again. You repeat until your AI reviewer says, yes, this is accurate and complete. Step 4 is refine and simplify. After you've gotten feedback, you go back through your explanation and you make it even simpler. You remove any remaining technical language. You replace abstract concepts with concrete examples and metaphors. You test your explanation by reading it out loud. If you stumble or have to reread something, that means it's not simple enough yet. Keep going until it flows naturally. Let's walk through a real example so you can see exactly how this works in practice. Let's say you're trying to understand what the blockchain is. You know it's important. You've heard people talk about it. But when someone tries to explain it, you zone out. Step 1, you write down blockchain as your concept. Step 2, you watch a couple of explainer videos, you read an article, You get exposed to the basic ideas of distributed ledgers and cryptography and consensus mechanisms. Step 3, you open a blank document and you write an explanation. Here's what you might write at first. Blockchain is a distributed ledger technology utilizing cryptographic hashing and consensus mechanisms to ensure immutability across a decentralized network of nodes. Then you paste that into ChatGPT or Claude and you ask, is this accurate? Where am I unclear? The AI responds that your explanation is technically correct, but overly complex, and it highlights that you haven't actually explained what problems blockchain solves or given any concrete examples. So you revise. You write, blockchain is like a record book that's stored on thousands of computers at once instead of just one. When someone wants to add a new entry, all the computers have to agree it's legitimate. Once they agree, the entry is locked in and can't be changed. This makes it basically impossible to cheat or fake records, because you'd have to trick thousands of computers at the same time. You paste that back to your AI and it says much better. Your understanding is solid. Here are some follow-up questions to deepen it further. Step 4. You refine even more. You simplify the language further if possible. You test it by explaining it out loud to your AI. You ask it for metaphors or comparisons. Eventually, you have an explanation that any intelligent person could understand, regardless of their technical background. And here's the crazy part. You now understand blockchain far better than 90% of people who talk about it. This is where the AI multiplication factor really kicks in. Without AI, you'd have to rely on finding a patient friend willing to listen to you explain blockchain over and over, or you'd have to pay for a tutor. With AI, you have unlimited iterations. You can explain a concept 20 times and get feedback each time. You can ask for analogies from completely different domains. You can ask what happens if you change one variable. You can ask how this concept relates to other things you're learning. You're not limited by anyone's availability or patience. Here's something crucial that people miss. The Feynman technique isn't just about explaining. It's about identifying the exact edge of your knowledge. When you try to explain and you hit a wall, that wall is information gold. That's the exact thing you need to study next. With AI, you can instantly get clarification on that specific gap without slogging through hours of general content. This is how you compress weeks of learning into days. Let's talk about some specific AI tools that are particularly powerful for this technique. ChatGPT is the obvious choice. It's accessible, capable, and it can handle explanations and feedback across virtually any domain. Claude from Anthropic is another strong option, often praised for nuance and detailed explanations. For specialized learning, there are domain-specific tools. If you're learning programming, GitHub Copilot or specialized coding tutors can check your work. If you're learning languages, tools like language-specific AI tutors can correct your pronunciation and give cultural context. The tool matters less than your technique. A mediocre tool with excellent technique beats an excellent tool with mediocre technique every single time. One common mistake people make is using AI as a shortcut instead of using it as a mirror. They ask the AI to explain a concept, read the explanation, think they understand, and move on. That's not the Feynman technique. That's outsourcing your thinking. You have to do the work of explaining first, before you get feedback. The AI's job is to point out where you're wrong or unclear, not to do the learning for you. The learning happens in the struggle, in the gap between what you think you understand and what you actually understand. Another mistake is being too ambitious with your concept. You pick something so broad that the explanation could be a textbook. Start smaller. Master one specific idea completely before you move to the next. This is how you build compounding knowledge. Each small thing you master becomes a building block for bigger ideas. You're not trying to learn everything about quantum physics in one session. You're trying to truly understand superposition right now. Then tomorrow you understand entanglement. Then next week you understand wave function collapse. Each one builds on the others, and suddenly you understand quantum mechanics. The combination of the Feynman technique and AI also creates an accountability feedback loop. You know that an AI will evaluate your explanation objectively. There's no fudging it, no pretending you understand when you don't. This motivates cleaner thinking from the start. You internalize the standard before you even start explaining. You think, okay, I need to be able to explain this simply and accurately, so I better make sure I actually understand it as I'm studying. Here's a pro tip that accelerates everything. When you're in step 2, the studying phase, as soon as you feel like you have the basics down, jump to step 3, Don't wait until you feel completely confident. The sooner you try to explain, the sooner you'll discover what you don't know. Some people study for hours before attempting an explanation, and they're wasting time on things they already understand. Other people jump to explanation after just 20 minutes of studying, and they discover immediately what they need to focus on. You want to find that sweet spot for your learning style. Another power move: use AI to generate questions and test yourself. After you've created your simple explanation, ask the AI to come up with challenging questions about that topic. Then answer them in the same simple language. If you can't answer a question simply, you've found another gap. This is active learning at its finest. You're not passively reviewing your own notes. You're being interrogated by an intelligent system that's specifically designed to probe your understanding. Let's talk about time investment. Most people dramatically underestimate how much time quality learning takes, but they overestimate how much time they're actually spending. They think they spent 2 hours learning about supply and demand economics because they watched a 1-hour video and skimmed an article. In reality, they spent maybe 30 minutes actively engaging with the material. With the Feynman technique and AI, you're counting your real time. You spent 15 minutes studying the material, 20 minutes creating your explanation, 10 minutes getting feedback and revising, 5 minutes testing yourself with generated questions. That's 50 minutes of actually learning, and you understand supply and demand better than students who spent 10 times that amount of time. The long-term benefit is that you're training your brain to think clearly. The Feynman technique isn't just a learning hack, it's a thinking framework. The more you use it, the clearer your thinking becomes in general. You find yourself naturally seeking simple explanations for complex things. You find yourself spotting gaps in your understanding faster. You become someone who truly understands things, not someone who just accumulates information. One last thought: combining the Feynman technique with AI is still relatively new territory. Most people haven't figured out how to do this effectively yet. That means you have a competitive advantage. If you master this combination now, in 6 months, in a year, the delta between your knowledge and the average person's knowledge will be massive. You'll learn new skills faster. You'll understand complex domains quicker. You'll be able to apply knowledge more effectively because your foundation is stronger. So here's your action step. Think of one thing you've been meaning to learn or understand better. Pick something specific. Open a blank document. Spend 15 minutes studying it using whatever resources you prefer. Then write a simple explanation. Paste it into ChatGPT or Claude. Ask for feedback on accuracy and clarity. Revise once based on that feedback. Notice how much clearer your understanding is. That's the power of this combination. That's how you learn anything faster. If this video helped you, smash that like button so other people can find this framework. And leave a comment telling me what you're going to learn first using this technique. What topic have you been struggling with that you're going to break down using the Feynman technique? I read every comment and I'd love to see what you're working on. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.